Today, we have the honor of having Ruben de Boer. I want to say we almost don't need an introduction. Everyone knows who you are, but let's just do one anyway. So, the best-selling instructor and founder of Conversion Ideas. You're part of the amazing Dutch CRO agency Conversion Dialogue, two times winner Experimentation Elite Award 2023, keynote speaker, coach, over 14 years of experience in the optimization world. The list goes on. And what I wanted to say, like I told you just now as well, what I personally love is the first ever lesson I did on CRO was your course on Udemy, which taught me so much. And I very often find myself actually going back to it just to go back to the foundations and the basics. So from that course to now having this episode with you, I'm really excited. So Ruben, thank you very much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's wonderful to hear your journey as well. That it started with my course. So thanks for the compliments and very nice to hear.
With pleasure. Yeah, I started with the best quality, and now we're having the call here, so perfect. So before we go into CRO and experimentation and everything, I would just love to know a little bit more about your journey, right? If you can tell us, how did young Ruben enter the experimentation world, and how did everything start for you?
So as a young Ruben, I'm still young, by the way. No, as a really young Ruben, at school I always liked data topics better than languages, for instance. So I always had something with data, and also was pretty result driven. So I wanted to see the impact of what I did. And when I was a master student, I did marketing. I was helping out a coaching agency, and they focused on change, personal growth, social skills, and they asked me to help them with the marketing and especially with the website. And it was then that I became really, really interested in what they did and changing behavior, human behavior. And then when I thought like, okay, if they can change human behavior offline, I should also be able to do it online. And I started getting very curious. And this was 2008. Fast forward to today, I worked at several companies. So naturally rolled into conversion rate optimization for the interest of human behavior. Kind of shifted that interest now to also human behavior within organizations and motivating people to run experiments and work customer-centric driven. Yeah, and now lead conversion manager at Online Dialogue and owner of my own company, Conversion Ideas.
Okay, amazing. So it sounds like you've always just been perfect for this role. I was going to ask you, how some people they start in an industry and after a couple of years they're like, I've seen enough. Maybe the grass is greener somewhere else. I'm a bit bored, or I'm fed up of this topic. Maybe you already answered it, but what do you think is the thing for you that actually managed to keep your interest, your attention for so many years now, 14 plus? Well, what is that saying, you think, for you?
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think I'll work in another space anytime soon, maybe different industries, but I'll always be working in CRO and experimentation. I just love the human behavior, data-driven, immediately seeing results of the work you did. It's just a passion. It's something that gives me energy, and therefore also love helping people learn and excel in this line of work. So I don't see myself doing anything else. And also, yeah, the questions, the topic is evolving, right? So whereas like 5-6 years ago was mainly working with e-commerce teams, CRO silos, basically within marketing, we now see it grows more and more into product teams, for instance, and innovation. And so it's always changing, it's always evolving, it's getting bigger and bigger. And yeah, it's just a fascinating line of work to be in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't have 14 plus years of experience, but from what I've heard everyone say is you're always learning new things. You never learned everything. And like you said, there are extra things you can learn. You said, results, it's more also internally now to see, getting maybe different stakeholders on board. Um, what do you think, if we go a little bit into like CRO, I'm just curious, what are some common misconceptions that especially the brands you work with, the clients, some common misconceptions? Because online you see sometimes you can 2x the revenue within 30 days. That's CRO. That's unfortunately not always the way it goes. What are some of the common misconceptions you would say you see most often, even with bigger brands that should know sometimes better, actually?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of misconceptions that I always see, big or small brands. First of all, seeing CRO as a set of tactics, best practices, which you can implement, and then some magic will happen, and in 1 month time, you will triple your conversion rates. First of all, I would love to see the data. I've never seen it. I've seen several people write about it on LinkedIn, but I always think like I would love to see the data. Of course, can happen every now and then. I've seen great results, but it doesn't happen as often as people state. So there's a big misconception there. It's about learning. It's about learning about your customers. It's about matching with their needs, and not simple list of tactics and best practices you can implement. Also people see A/B testing as CRO, and CRO as A/B testing as the same thing. It's not. It's also doing research, and A/B testing is just a method to validate ideas. If you have insufficient traffic, or you're working on something that doesn't exist yet, like innovation, there are many different validation methods besides A/B testing. Yeah, I think that's about it. And CRO is only about increasing conversions. Well, that's within the name. But as mentioned, it moves more and more to product teams to make better products, but also to validate ideas, validate strategy, innovation. That way, make data-driven decision making actually. And if you still call it CRO, experimentation, data-driven decision making, there are different names people call it differently, but I think CRO is much bigger than a lot of people see it as.
Yeah, that's a very interesting answer. Two things on that though. I was thinking, as you were saying that you just love, always learning, it's a passion for you. I just wanted to add on that previous part. It sounds like, what I think Warren Buffett said, when you love what you do, you always get, a wake up excited, you look forward to every day. So it's just good to hear that you found your passion. And even after 14 years, you're still, like you just told me before, you're getting, different conferences, you're just staying very busy and very active in the community.
Yes.
So that's amazing to see. And then back to what you were saying with the misconception, maybe also I think what people say on, like you said, on online, whether it's different, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, when you see everyone getting those amazing results, it's normal that the clients that don't understand it, they expect, that sometimes. So that is definitely, I agree, big misconceptions. In terms then of
And then
some
problem there is we did it ourselves, right? If you look at many agency websites, many vendor websites, on the homepage or the main landing pages above the fold is always like, install our testing tool and get 300% uplift within 1 year. No, the testing tool doesn't do anything. But also agencies, also on their main page, they also show such numbers. So we did it ourselves, these misconceptions and misunderstanding. And also the name conversion rate optimization doesn't really help with that. And I guess it's our job to show it's much more than just increasing conversion rates with magical best practices.
True. We kind of shot ourselves in the foot there, like you said. But I guess that adds to the fun and the challenge of trying to, educate the potential clients, prospects, that there's a lot to learn and they can learn with you, and then it really becomes a partner sort of project.
Yeah, absolutely. Every client, every website is another puzzle. A puzzle to best match the needs of the customers, potential customers, and really be curious and dig into that. And also within organizations, it's always just a puzzle to see how you can motivate people, who you should involve, which are the most important stakeholders, who are in favor or against experimentation, and why. It's just a fascinating puzzle with data and human behavior. And I think if you see it like that, then you're always having fun and not get frustrated.
Yeah, I think if you don't like problem solving, CRO might not be the best industry for you because you're going to solve problems everywhere. With your experience then, what's one of them? Obviously, there are many ways to try and motivate people, but for someone that doesn't know much about CRO and they think that you just, change the color on the product page and then you're going to get an increase. Let's say this is a big stakeholder in the company. They're focused more maybe on, I don't know, paid ads. You put money in, you get money coming back much quicker. How would you sort of approach that sort of situation? How would you try and get that person involved and interested in optimizing with the long sort of term picture in mind?
Well, if the stakeholder believes that a button color test will result in much more conversions, I will gladly run the test because it's likely not going to work.
Yeah.
And I'll gladly show him, hey, you see, not all ideas work.
Yeah.
So let's work together on improving and actually running tests that mean something to our customers.
That's a good answer.
But I guess internally, it just starts with our CRO mindset, right? When we optimize our websites, in a proper process. So not just testing best practices, but actually doing good research, data research, user research. Most people understand this and spend a lot of time on this. And then we come up with ideas, hypotheses, and try to optimize our websites, digital products to best match those needs.
Yeah.
Internally, it's exactly the same thing, but we tend to forget that. Internally, we have to use that same curiosity, same mindset, and try to optimize our approach, our way of working, our way of sharing insights, our way of sharing results. We need to optimize that to match the needs of our stakeholders. And to know the needs of our stakeholders, we need to ask questions. So we can use the CRO mindset, because instead of digital users, potential customers, we now have to understand our stakeholders. And instead of optimizing a website, we have to optimize how we approach them, how we structure, how we share results.
I love it. It sounds actually, now that you say it, it sounds so obvious, but I think very few people do it, where we're all about understanding the customer, optimizing the website. But then for ourselves, like, do we understand your own clients? Do you optimize your way of communicating and everything? So I think that's super valuable to, because there's maybe no one way where it works with everyone. It just depends. Just like there's not one way to optimize website and increase conversion. It's actually through testing.
Yeah.
Would you say then, or what would you say if we look more onto the optimizer side, so people doing actually the CRO experimentation and testing, what are some mistakes that maybe even the advanced practitioners make, or maybe things that they learn too late in their career in terms of, how they can really be good at their job?
Yeah, I think still, even for advanced, I often see statistical mistakes.
Okay.
So testing when already the MDE scores are too high. That's a mistake I often see. But when it gets more advanced, strictly hold on to the CRO process. So once CROs start moving around the organization, so not just in the CRO silo, we should be way more flexible with our process. And we should match our process with the processes that already exist. Because you cannot go as a CRO specialist from your CRO silo into a product team, for instance, and then tell them how to do their work differently. No one will like you.
Yeah.
And I think you will not have a fun time in a product team. Instead, try to see how you can incorporate experimentation, A/B testing, and of course, user and data research into existing processes to help them achieve their goals. So be flexible, and also start recognizing that you should help your colleagues achieve their goals and not only yours with your experiments.
Okay. So you're saying not just look at CRO, like optimize conversion rate, but try and actually optimize everything, whether it's people, and also adapting, right? So if you have your process, other people have their process ready. It's not saying this is how we're going to do it. It's like, okay, you've got your process. Here's how we can try and optimize it, which is going to allow you to get closer to your goals. Is that the idea, basically? Yeah.
Exactly. Like some product teams work with dual track agile, otherwise look more double diamond, triple diamond. Product discovery is becoming bigger and bigger lately, and you can perfectly tie experimentation into that. But it should be that way. Tie experimentation into the process that already exists, because they understand the process, they like the process, and nobody wants to hear like, "Hey, what you've been doing for years is not right. Now we're going to do it completely differently." That doesn't work. You will not make friends with that.
No, I see. If you want to demoralize someone, that's the way to go. Tell them that they've been wasting the last 2 years of their life on something that doesn't work. In terms, because then obviously, if you want to optimize, you need to do research and test a lot of different things. How would you say? So, what I've seen with different conversations and just generally seeing how other people do some of their work, maybe more beginners, what they would do is, let's say they look at post-purchase survey, they see some people are having a bit of problems, maybe finding the right product, or if it's fashion, getting the right size. Then they're going to look at maybe heat maps, and they're going to maybe have some biases towards confirming that idea that they have, and then they're going to actually test that. That's a little bit, throwing, what's the expression, throwing spaghetti at the wall and hopefully it sticks. What's maybe, or if you can walk us through your approach of, first of all, setting up a purpose-driven and also strategically structured testing roadmap that gets real improvements instead of just trying left, right, and center and nothing really sticks.
Yeah. Well, when we start with the client, so again, I work for the agency Online Dialogue, so I work with clients. Um, of course, we try to set up the first A/B test as soon as possible. I mean, yes, this can be low-hanging fruit, this can be best practices, but of course, we have a huge database with over 10,000 experiments, so we have a good idea of what might quickly work in what industry. I also like to get some ideas from the organization, preferably from higher management, because we can test those ideas and show them like why it's important to experiment. But while those first experiments are running or a small group is setting up those experiments, we do a thorough research. So we use many sources related to user research, so customer service, surveys, reviews. We do data, check all funnels, check most important pages, just go through BigQuery or GA4, whatever data source they have. And which is very often forgotten, or almost always, is scientific research. We get a lot of insights from scientific research. In online dialogue, we work with multidisciplinary teams. So we have UX experts, they can do the research. We have data analysts and scientists, they can do the research. We have psychologists, and they can do the scientific research and psychology. And of course, then we have the leads managers, which is my team, and developers. And together we do a very thorough research. And because if you do very well research, it really gives you a head start in your whole CRO program. It gives you an indication of where to optimize and how to optimize. And from there, we just start running as many A/B tests as possible, because A/B testing is both, for earning extra money, but it's also for learning. So A/B testing is also a form of research. So we start with user data and scientific research, generate hypotheses, and then use A/B testing to learn even more and also start learning from meta-analyses.
That is, as you say, very thorough and very complete. In that case, then I would love to learn a little bit more on how you can do scientific research, because I've tried, maybe Google Scholar, I think it's called. When I look at some of the papers, I'm completely lost because they use the scientific terms. How can someone like me that doesn't have the scientific background still get some good findings from it without spending hours trying to understand what this one symbol actually means? How can I do that?
Yeah, true. It takes a bit of skills to quickly search articles, and then if you have the right articles, also quickly scan them. So basically, like you, when it starts with Greek and Roman letters, I quickly skip that part and mainly look at the results and the conclusions, recommendations. But nowadays with AI, there's actually no excuse anymore not to do it. I mean, tools like Elicit, Consensus, Site, I think they're fantastic tools. And you now also have the Consensus plugin into ChatGPT, which makes it much easier to find relevant articles. So it's with AI, it's only coming faster and easier to get some amazing insights and therefore hypotheses for your A/B tests.
Can you just explain quickly what, because I never heard of Consensus, what kind of plugin actually is that? What does that do?
Yeah, it's plugs into ChatGPT, and then it's basically starts behaving like Google Scholar, but then with AI running over it. So you can ask questions, and it just searches all scientific articles it has access to.
Okay. I'll definitely actually try that one later when I do some scientific research. That way I'll be a little less lost. In terms then of finding different test ideas, I feel, and again, maybe this goes back to what we see on social media with a lot of people saying, okay, we're going to add some social proof here. We're going to add just some benefits, here. I'm not saying it doesn't work, because sometimes that works really well. But generally, I feel that everyone's testing very similar ideas. With your experience with the vault that you guys have, you just said with so many tests, are there any maybe lesser known areas or drastic changes or different elements that are known to produce good winning results and maybe that are underused or that things that most of us ignore? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, the best thing still is that we see it in our data as well to base your A/B test hypothesis on research on your users based on your user research. Those are most successful. What we also see is, which is actually a funny one. We know about the KISS principle for marketing. It's been long. Keep it short and simple, or short and stupid.
Yeah.
That's been long for a very long time. But there's also psychological bias. Can't remember the name right now. Is that when we try to solve something, we tend to add something. If you, for instance, look at a remote control for your television, there's a lot of stuff added. I have no clue what every button is.
Yeah.
But the KISS principle is the opposite, right? We should remove stuff and make it easy. And we also see that in our database. Again, with over 10,000 experiments from many companies, industries, that removing stuff is more successful than adding stuff in the A/B tests. So
Wow.
give it a try. We're very eager, we're very biased to add stuff when we try to solve something, but removing also very well works. And with A/B testing, that's perfect because designer is done pretty quickly, developer is done pretty quickly, the quality assurance done pretty quickly. So give it a try. See if you have a database, see what percentage of times you add something, change something, or remove something.
That's a very interesting one. That's giving me test ideas. With just different brands to just remove something because it feels very cluttered, and yeah, sometimes you don't need all of that information. So that's super interesting. You also said that you need to A/B test not just to actually add more revenue, but also to learn more things, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm sure you can confirm it's very important to let the clients know that the test it's not either it's a winner or it's a loser. Either it wins or you just learn a lot from that. What's your process like then once you've had or once you've concluded a test, whether it's a winner, inconclusive, or it is a losing or underperforming test? Do you have a process to just analyze it and just get as much learnings as possible from each test?
Yeah, it really depends on the situation. If I have my full online dialogue team, the analyzing experiment and a learning part is really a combination where back and forth combination of psychologists and data analysts. So data analyst gives the main data, then psychologists can ask some more questions. So what happens here? What happens on the next step? Where do they click? Do they click here more often? So it's a back and forth thing, those two. And that's how we draw the best learnings. But not every company or barely any company or agency have a psychologist. In that case, what I generally do when I lead the process is to learn together. So in our stand-ups, when we discuss the results of completed experiments, we start thinking together, what did we learn? And you can think of questions such as, what was the winner or a loss prevented inconclusive? If it was not a winner, was the hypothesis off or was the execution off?
Mhm.
And with these results, do we see something entirely new, or does it match into what we kind of already knew from user research and previous experiments? So again, you can look at the meta-analysis. And you can ask questions such as, was there something different this time, like a Black Friday or maybe a pandemic? And when you start asking these questions and come up with the answers together, that's when you really start learning. Also, if it's a winner, could there be different reasons why it was a winner other than stating your hypothesis? If you document all these learnings, you will also come up with much better follow-up experiments, and that's when you really start learning.
I love that you mentioned the idea of learning all together, or maybe brainstorming more people, not just doing everything yourself, because maybe you have certain biases towards why something worked, and someone may have a complete different
Yeah,
idea. How can
exactly.
you then actually incorporate brainstorming and team working inside an organization so that everyone's working towards a common goal and being very productive all together?
Yeah, of course, there should be a common goal within a company, and CRO experimentation should tie into that. So I generally do this with the team itself during stand-ups when we discuss stuff. But once we see overarching insights that keep on returning and returning, that's, for instance, when we can use that in a brainstorm and ask people like, what other ideas can you come up with, knowing this information is true as we've seen it in so many A/B tests. But it could also be that the big thing you learned, and that could, for instance, also be generated as an opportunity where a product team is working on. You could share it with your colleagues, and I've seen that. That's certain opportunities, hypotheses that have been validated with A/B testing multiple times. Online marketing uses it, offline marketing uses it in big banners in bus stations, for instance. Sales department uses it in the argumentation. People on the floors in the brick and mortar stores can use it, those insights. So yeah, A/B testing is also learning, and if you do the right way, you learn something very valuable, which will benefit the whole organization.
I love that. Yeah, it's like you said. Also, I think it's maybe not just something that works on the website, but maybe it can also help them with email marketing or paid ads or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
really super valuable. If we switch it up a little bit now and we give some love to the smaller brands, the ones that don't have a huge amount of data, the ones where it maybe takes longer also to get some post-purchase survey responses or exit intent or whatever the case may be. When just starting off with a new client, let's say it's a smaller brand that has less sessions, certain research methods require a bit more time to collect. Like I said, maybe it's surveys, they don't get them as quickly. What are the research methods you would emphasize most when you're starting with a new client to try and collect potentially high impactful test ideas for that client?
A good question. There are so many research sources you can use, and if you have insufficient website visitors for filling out, getting survey results, getting poll results, I mean, yeah, there's no excuse not to do user research, because you must have some customers. Call them, ask them questions, go to customer service, sit there for a day and see what calls and questions come in. Read your reviews, read your chat logs, read your social media channels. Um, yeah, it's if there's insufficient traffic for surveys, there's no excuse not to do user research. Put the survey in your email if you have a big email list. Um, yeah, there are many things you can do,
Yes.
and even still you can, if you don't have sufficient customers, users, there are databases online you can use to find your target audience, and then you can interview them. Um,
Hey,
the problem becomes with A/B testing with low traffic websites, because they have insufficient traffic for A/B testing. But for research, there's so many sources. There's should be no excuse.
I love that. Yeah. So you mentioned a couple that, again, you think of it, maybe we get focused on the classic ones, where it's just heat map surveys,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
there's reviews, there's customer service, there's calling the customers, there's so much.
yeah.
In terms then of psychology principles, right? Because you said one thing that you really loved when you started off your career was seeing that you could impact the way people behave offline, then also online. With your experience, are there any, or do you have any favorite psychology principles or maybe biases that you try and leverage on some tests because you see that they perform better than others?
No, again, it depends on the research we did. Yeah, it fully depends on that. So I have no favorite ones. Even for social proof, I sometimes see it not work and decrease conversion rates. For instance, when motivation is really high and people are about to purchase, a block of social proof could just distract people from the actual purchase and therefore lower your conversion rate. So no, for me, there's no real favorite psychological bias. I just find human behavior fascinating in the broader sense. And yeah, for me, it's just aligning with mostly with based on research and with the use, so aligning with the users.
But what I'm really getting, and it actually makes sense, is there's no one way or one strategy, one method with anything. It's just testing it out, see what works, and learn basically from everything.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are some basics, but you should really wonder if you should test that. And if you need to test that, you need to wonder if who made the website. I mean, the navigation should be on top. There should be a search somewhere. There should be a cart icon, and when you click on the logo, you're back to the home page. Filter should be on the left or top, just like the sorting. So those should be in place. You have your comment. The footer should be at the bottom. Um, yeah, but they should be on the website.
Yeah, definitely makes it. Maybe some common things that every customer is just used to seeing on a website, and if it's not there, it just maybe messes a little bit with their mind. If we talk a little bit now about stakeholders, and I know that sometimes it can be a little bit challenging to get stakeholder buy-in with different research methods. You said you could do user testing. Maybe sometimes certain stakeholders they don't see the point of it, or they don't want to spend a bit of money on that. How
Mhm.
would you again tackle that to try and get them actually to get buy-in and think, okay, let's try this out because the findings we're going to get here are going to be super valuable for the business?
Yeah. So yeah, it's that's a nice question actually. First of all, I'll be very curious why they don't see the needs to invest in research. and maybe it's a very easy lack of knowledge. Well, then you can show like which big companies maybe do it, or you might show one or two studies you did for your own brand. Additionally, and Microsoft Clarity is free of use.
Yeah.
Get some recordings from that, send it to the stakeholders, go through them together. That could work. Yeah, and if a stakeholder is really stubborn, then try a different stakeholder, because yeah, at some point, especially in the Western markets, there is a bigger understanding for customer-driven way of working, for data-driven working, and experimentation is just part of that.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I love the idea of trying to just factually show them it does work and it gets you great results, and maybe they just don't understand it.
Yeah,
So
maybe facts work. Maybe you need to find some sort of feeling, make it more personal. Yeah, try different things, see what works for which stakeholder, and which one you can involve and motivate.
exactly, again, just testing, A/B test your
Yeah,
approach to stakeholders, see what they like, what they don't
exactly.
like, and get your learnings from that. So last question now before we go into some rapid fire questions. That's going to be interesting. Um,
Cool.
for you, what are some up and coming trends that you're seeing? I'm guessing probably there's AI. You know, that's on everyone's mind. AI is
Yeah.
helping us become a lot more maybe proficient with our job. That and other trends. What are you seeing that's actually taking place in the world of CRO within the next couple months, maybe 1 or 2 years, right, for the foreseeable future?
Well, that really depends, which is the favorite answer of any consultant, I guess. Because in the world of CRO, the world's very different, right? In some countries, CRO still needs to start, whereas in Netherlands, where I'm from, every big company has at least one CRO specialist already. But looking at the Western markets, yeah, besides AI, I see a CRO move to product. For me, then becomes experimentation, because CRO makes no sense if you try to improve your product. But so A/B testing, experimentation within product teams, within innovation, that's happening more and more. With most of our clients, there's now a center of excellence helping move CRO to the product teams. App testing is finally becoming bigger.
Okay.
It is very technical. It's still complex, but as companies start believing more in experimentation, as they start believing more in A/B testing, they also want to invest more, and therefore app testing now becomes much more possible. So I see it in the Western world becoming bigger and bigger and broader, and finally, companies are picking up.
That's very interesting, actually. Yeah, the different perspective there. Can you just go a little bit deeper into different ideas with app testing? Because I'm curious to see what people are focusing on that level.
Web testing is the same as web testing. I mean, you still do your research, your hypothesis. The whole process is the same. It's just a lot more technical. Because in general, you need to send the code with every update, every new release of the app, and only then you can trigger the A/B test. So it's not like we use with a client-side testing tool and just turn on, turn off the code. In app testing, you can turn it off, but you should update the app with the code and then switch on the A/B test. So it's very different from client-side testing and requires certain development skills.
Yeah, sounds very complicated. So yeah. Okay. Are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Yes, let's see.
I'm not the best at this, so I hope that you're better so that you sort of bring the level up a little bit. But let's start with the
No
first.
pressure.
No, no pressure. What's your favorite book or podcast to listen to?
My favorite book is a Switch from the Heat Brothers. And my favorite podcast, I have to say, for now, it's from A to B.
Okay.
But there's an experimentation culture podcast coming up.
Oh, okay. Interesting. If you could have dinner with anyone that is alive or that has ever lived, who would it be and why?
Who is alive or has ever lived? That's a very nice question. Johan Cruyff.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Dutch people will understand that one.
Yes.
On that topic then, because I know whenever I go to Holland with my family, especially my brother, he always loves bitterballen, croquette, frikandellen, this sort of typical Dutch food. Do you have favorite Dutch junk food? And if so, which one?
Ooh, I try to optimize everything, right? So I also try to optimize health.
Yes.
But on a cheat day, of course, I would go for, I guess French fries are always good.
Okay.
Pizza is always nice.
Okay.
But
Nice.
but yeah, but as mentioned, I try to optimize my life as well. Of course, balancing health with some drinks every now and then.
Of course.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
try to
Well,
optimize everything.
good. Let's get away then from the junk food questions if you try and optimize everything then. What is the proudest moment of your career?
Proudest moment of my career, I guess winning Experimentation Elite Awards last year. My client and NS won the Experimentation Culture Awards last week.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that must be the proudest.
Okay. So fresh, recent. So you must still be feeling just amazing about it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. And what's always nice, of course, is which yeah, it's not very, I would say proud, more makes me humble, is when I receive a message from students from my courses that mention that I help them in their careers. I mean, I make these courses as a hobby to help people and to help them learn and excel in CRO. They sell for 12, 13 euros. And then, well, you can guess that Udemy and taxes take like 85%. So I barely make money from it, but I really do to help people. And if I get a message that I helped someone in their career or prepare for a job interview, that's always something very humbling, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine. Everyone I talk to about CRO, I would say 9 out of 10 mention your course. So I think you've helped more people than you can actually possibly imagine. I've gotten my job at Conversion Wise, and I started like I said with your course. So super valuable. So thank you for that. And
Thanks for
then
sharing.
yeah, with pleasure. Last one is if you could give yourself one piece of advice before embarking on this journey, what would it be?
I always like this question. Nothing. And that's a very
Oh,
unique answer, I guess,
that's well
because
fun.
the fact is, I'm really happy where I am right now. I wouldn't want to have it any other way. And if I would give myself tips and not make the mistakes I've made along the way, I might not be here. So I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't give myself any tips. I would just tell myself, be curious, explore, make all the mistakes you can make, have fun at it, and
Wow.
learn.
That is a good answer. I've never had that one. It's always maybe just a piece of advice. It's not do nothing because I'm just perfectly happy where I'm at. So I'm very happy for you that you're at that stage. And then as you were answering that one, I was just wondering for one last, which is you mentioned, that you optimize your daily life, not just your work, but everything. What has been the sort of A/B test you've done in your personal life, your optimization that has really increased, I would say, probably productivity or increased the amount of output you get from the inputs you put in?
Yeah, so I've like I said, my hobby company kind of is blew up.
Okay.
Now with 5 courses, it's really hard to keep them all up to date, and with a newsletter, and also trying to answer all the questions, and on the side creating free guides because that I find it a lot of fun to create free guides for people. So I have to optimize how I spend my days. And even though I'm more of a night person, I now wake up early. So I read books like the 5 a.m. Club, Miracle Morning, do sports then straight away from bed, do 1 hour of sports, and then start working on my own business before working on online dialogue. And I had to do some optimization there, what time to go to bed, what time to wake up, when to eat, what to eat, when to meditate. If I wake up early, meditate, I fall asleep straight away. Um, yeah, that's made the biggest impact because that allowed me to build conversion ideas and the courses.
Okay. So everything is very structured and you know what you need to do at what time. So it's clear.
Yeah, yeah, and the rule that after 6:37 I close my laptop and then have something very unstructured and nothing planned and be spontaneous because that's what I am from nature. But
Okay.
I kind of need the structure to have a full-time job and conversion ideas.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Well, Ruben, you've been amazing. And like I said, it's incredible to go from the first ever lesson on CRO from you to now having this podcast and just again learning tons. So I want to say thank you very much for your time. And for anyone that wants to continue learning from you and support your journey, where can they go?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, always fun. And check my website conversiondeals.com for the courses. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it for agency. Check onlinedialogue.com. But also conversion wise is a nice agency. I guess I have to say that.
both invaluable. You learn a lot from it. So Ruben, you're the best. Thank you very much. Love it.
Thank you. It was a fun interview. Thanks.